Okay, in lesson 9-3, we're going to use multiplication to divide. And we know that you can use multiplication to help you solve division problems. So if you have 10 divided by 2, you know that equals 5. You can say to yourself, 2 times what equals 10? And you know the answer is 5. So we can use multiplication to help us solve division problems. A sandwich shop prepares large wraps and cuts them into fourths. Each fourth is 1 serving. William buys 5 wraps. How many servings does he get altogether? So if he, in one, you can do draw a diagram where you know that one whole sandwich is equal to 4 pieces. So if you have 5 sandwiches, and you divide each sandwich into 4 pieces, you can use, multiplication is repeated addition. So instead of adding 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, you can say 4 times 5 equals 20. So he'll be able to serve 20 people. That's one way to do it. You can say, if you make we're not sure what number times 1/4 equals 5. You can use some multiplication to help you figure this out. So what number times 1/4 will equal 5? So we're going to say, what will get us a 5? So the only number that would fit in there would be 20. 20 times 1/4 would get us a 5. That's another way you could solve it. So there you go. Let's come down to the bottom here. Write an equation that represents. Get this up here. So I can write 5 whole sandwiches, that's what we have, divided into fourths equals 20. And what we can do here is we can use an inverse operation. So what we can say is 5 times, I'm going to take 1/4 and flip it over. 4/1 equals 20. That's using the inverse operation. In this case, because we have a whole number times a fraction, and the fraction is a unit fraction, we can actually just cross multiply the 5 and the 4, and that'll get us the 20. And lots of different ways to do this, but I know it's tricky, so stay with me here. A bottle of liquid plant food contains 3 cups. How many plants will you be able to feed? Explain why your answer makes sense. So each bottle of liquid container contains 3 cups. So this whole container is 3 cups. That's what we have. We have 3 cups. And we know each plant uses 1/8 of a cup. So if I take that container and divide it into 8 equal parts, how many plants will I be able to feed with that? So I'm taking 3, and you can use, again, we can show with fraction strips or with the drawing, and we're dividing it into 8 pieces, so it's eighths. So we have 3 cups, and we're going to see how many eighths can we get out of 3 cups. Well, out of 1 cup, we can get 8/8. That's 1 cup. Then that's a second cup and a third cup. We get 8 plus 8 plus 8. So we know using repeated addition, we'll get 24. We'll be able to feed 24 plants. Another way you can do this is use the inverse operation. So you leave the first fraction alone, and you flipped the second fraction, and you multiply. And another way we can do this is we can say, we know we have, that's pretty much the 2 ways they're showing you here. I don't want to get you too confused. The inverse operations is something I'm showing you, but so you can draw a diagram, and then you can check your work using multiplication. Use the same numbers in the multiplication equation. 15 times 1/3 equals 5 to write a division equation. So how would we move that around to make a division equation? We're going to use 15 times 1/3 equals 5. So we can say 5 divided by 1/3. How many? Remember, each one, if I'm dividing it into thirds, and I've got 5 groups, and I'm dividing them into thirds, we want to know how many thirds do we have altogether. And we've got 15. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 15. And we can do that when we have our unit fraction like that. So let's see. On the unit fraction, remember, is a fraction that has a 1 in the numerator. Explain how you use multiplication to find 4 divided by 1/5. Well, if I got 4 and I want to see how many fifths I have altogether, if I've got 4 and I know each one can be divided into 5 fifths. So altogether, I would have 20. So that's using shapes. Since there are 5 fifths in each whole, there are 4 times 5 equals 20. That's how I figured this out over here. And to write an equation for this, you'd say you can write 4 times 5 equals 20. Show how you use multiplication to check your answer in exercise 1. Well, I know 20 times 1/5 is going to equal 4. So I'm just moving things around and changing my sign. Find 3 divided by 1/10. If I have 1 divided by 1/10, how many tenths am I going to have? If I have 1 and I divide it into tenths, I know I'm going to have 10 tenths altogether. So if I have 3 and divide it into tenths, I'm going to have 3 times that amount. I will have 30. Draw a model to find 2 divided into 6s. So my model would be, I draw 2 rectangles, divide them into 6s, and altogether I would have 6 plus 6 equals 12. And if I use my multiplication, my inverse model, I'm going to say 2 times, I'm going to flip that fraction, 6 over 1 equals 12. You always flip the second fraction. You leave the first number alone. In this case, they're whole numbers, but sometimes they can be fractions. Use a multiplication equation to check your answer to exercise 4. Well, I've got my answer is 12. I'm going to times it by 6s, and I get 12 over 6, which equals 2. So there's my 2, there's my 1/6, and there's my 12. And that's how you use some division for the fractions.